city port by the Black Sea. And basically the guy never turned up. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Oh boy. I had left Kiev for a couple of days to go back to Lviv to visit my friend Sveta. We both have our birthdays a couple of days apart, so I thought we might celebrate together. Yeah, boy.
Wow. Wow, man. It's huge, but wow. Do they think I'm big?
That looks like you, though.
I know.
Did they make that?
No. It's pew, pew, pew.
Trying to figure out what we wanted to do for the day, we went to the bus depot and just got on a random bus. And this one happened to be going to Zhovkva, which is a little town just about an hour outside of Lviv.
You're paying on the way back.
How much was it?
25.
25? I will accept. But after driving around, we decided to just get off at this stop at this little tiny village, the Smerkiv, which is a beautiful little mosaic.
I'm not going to be speaking.
Well, if you do, it's going to be recorded, so...
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that.
Don't tell the personal details, yeah, when... So if it's a village, you'd call it the Guild Hall.
Something like that, yeah. So you see these ones? These are too dark. They won't do.
Great vlog content.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that sounded really
At least I've got it. At least I've got video evidence. I've got video evidence. That was a true joke. Essentially, we just wandered through the town and then sat in the field and basically just hung out for about a couple of hours before heading back to Lviv. As the sun was going down over the city, it was such an electric atmosphere. I loved walking through the city centre of Lviv. It's such a beautiful city. Then Sveta took me to this little restaurant called Kareevka, which is essentially an old Ukrainian resistance hideout, which is now a Ukrainian restaurant, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Delicious food. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
That same night, we boarded an overnight train from Lviv, going towards the seaside city of Odessa, where we'd be staying for the weekend. The train journey was not too bad, actually, and we shared a compartment with the family, but it was pretty good. Unfortunately, I didn't take any videos, so here's some photos of when we landed. This was the area where we were staying, and we were just staying over that balcony there in that room. It was quite central, about 10 minutes away from the city centre, and a great place. Me and Sveta then decided to take a little minibus west of the city to go to a beach for the day. Unfortunately, again, I didn't really take that many videos of the beach, but take my word for it, it was really nice, and so here's some photos I took. Chilling by the Black Sea, yeah, I mean, it's an experience for sure. On the way back, we didn't really have any way of knowing where or when the bus was going to be, but luckily we ran into a couple, a man and a woman who were just waiting for a taxi, an Uber, and we just got in with them, and they were so kind about it. We offered, no matter how many times we offered, they wouldn't accept our money. And when Sunday came round, it was time in the afternoon for Sveta to catch an overnight train back to Lviv, and soon after I'd catch a bus back to Kiev, where I'd stay for the next few days before returning back to Austria. It was really nice getting to know Sveta, and it was really emotional seeing her go. I'd made a real nice friendship with her, and it was really cool just hanging out with someone who knew the place and knew the country, because I certainly didn't. The city port by the Black Sea in Ukraine. So I've only got about an hour and a bit until my bus back to Kiev. So I'm just going to do a walk around and explain the facts, explain the history of this beautiful Mediterranean style city, you know. So join me, will you? So Odessa was first colonized by the ancient Greeks in about the 5th, 6th century BC. So so everywhere you go, they're very proud of this fact here. So if you go to the centre of the town, and indeed a lot of the architecture as well, it's kind of based off this neoclassical Greek style of building. So for example, you can see here, look at this, and you've got Artemis here. These bag of nuts. So yeah, they are very proud of that. But Odessa is a city that has been, you know, since its beginnings in the ancient Greek world, it's been conquered by the Golden Horde, the Crimean Khanate, for a brief time the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Ottomans for a couple of hundred years, and then eventually what happened was Russia, the Russian Empire, took over Odessa in like about 1790-ish, and that's when it got renamed to Odessa, after the idea of the nearby Greek city of Odessus. So here we have the kind of Greek foundations of the old Greek settlement. So there's some stone there. You've also got some pottery and wooden tools and some rope, you can see just there. And this is just on display here. This is from the 5th, 6th century. So again, this is right at the seafront now. You can just see the Black Sea over there. And so yeah, again, very, very proud. I mean, Slavic people living by the sea on an ancient Greek foundation. You can't get much cooler than that, let's be honest. Odessa was probably the most important port in the Soviet Union, and also Odessa was the 4th largest city in the Soviet Union as well, after Warsaw, Moscow, St. Petersburg, I think. I'm probably missing one, but so the Black Sea this was an incredibly important port for the Soviets. So because it was a warm water port, and obviously during winter, you know, Russia gets very cold, so it freezes up all the shipping, all the water in the docks, so it's very hard to, you know, get the ships out and get trading. So this was one of the few warm water ports, and in the Soviet Union, of course, after the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991 and Ukraine's independence, Russia was kind of left without this access, this good warm water access. So unfortunately this led to the annexation of, one of the reasons of the annexations of the Crimea, because, you know, it was a warm water port. Sevastopol's a warm water port. How different it is from the other major cities of Ukraine. So Lviv has this more Austro-Hungarian feel, like it feels like you're in Prague or Vienna when you're there. Kiev, while it does have this Russian imperial architecture, has a lot of Soviet building and design. And because this was such an important city during the Russian imperial period of Catherine the Great, you know, this was built up heavily, and as you can see around me, the architecture is very much 19th century Russian imperialist. But also it's got and because it's by the sea, it's bad weather, but it's been lovely all weekend. But the vibe is very much of a Mediterranean city. So again, there's so much differences between Odessa and the other cities of Ukraine. And plus everybody dresses quite well here. The drip is on point, you know. Like everyone wears white, which is bizarre. And as I was walking down the street, talking to myself and blabbering on, I happened to come across the Naval Cadet School of Odessa, and there were all the students and all the young lads buying little foods from the little old lady in the hut. The sailors. The beaches in Odessa are famous. People used to go to Crimea for the holidays because it's a bit more south, it's like a bit more nicer weather. That was the holiday place for a lot of Ukrainians. But unfortunately, since the Russian takeover of the Crimean Peninsula, Odessa has now kind of become more of the place that people come for their holidays. So I came off the train station and there was like loads of people. Friday morning, Saturday morning, people come, it's packed. And then Sunday, when my friend was leaving, I saw her off at the station. Hundreds of people catching that train back to get home the next morning. So it's just a big tourist place for the Ukrainians. Unlike Western Ukraine, a lot of Western Ukraine, Odessa is a city that predominantly speaks Russian. Russian is the main language here. So if you go into a shop or a restaurant and stuff, you'd say spasiba, like thank you, instead of diakuyu, which is thank you in Ukrainian. And someone was telling me that this is quite divisive. A friend of mine came with me to Odessa. She left yesterday, and I'm just on my way to the station right now. Actually, got my sandwich. But she was adamant she wasn't going to speak. She's a proud Western Ukrainian woman, and so she was adamant she wasn't going to speak Russian. She was going to speak Ukrainian as like a show of thinking. And so I started saying "Дякую," and she said maybe you shouldn't, because it might give off the airs that you are a Ukrainian nationalist or Ukrainian, or it's a political statement. So I mean, I find that completely interesting, how the fact that speaking Ukrainian in some parts of Ukraine, say Ukraine again, can be a political thing. You know, it can be a political nightmare for some people. Which if a Russian Gopnik is anywhere, he starts hearing you speak Ukrainian, he'll be like, what are you gonna do? It's like, so I'm just speaking out loud at this point. But I'm on my way to the station. Ooh, what a lovely church. That's the thing about Odessa as well, that they have some of the most beautiful churches I've ever seen. As I walk now towards my blah car to take me back to Kiev, a few closing thoughts on what I thought of Odessa. It's a beautiful seaside place. It's basically Slavic Mediterraneans. I guess like Eastern Croatians, maybe you could say. But it's absolutely beautiful. The people are very kind and nice. And the beaches are beautiful, and the architecture and the vibe of the city is absolutely phenomenal. I've really enjoyed my time here. I would recommend to anybody. So yeah, I think that'll be about it. So that was Odessa. Apologies for this like short, kind of rushed video, but hopefully it sparked some interest in going to see Odessa. There was an issue with the blah car, and basically the guy never turned up, which can happen, especially if you're walking around with no Wi-Fi and the language aren't the same. So I basically just went to the train station, walked up to this bus, said Kiev on the front, and I essentially just said to the guy, hey, I haven't booked, do you have any spaces? He said, yeah. 400, get in. So when in doubt, a deal can always be made, you know. Look at me sounding like Richard Branson over here. Yeah, for a 6-hour journey. And then we're back in Kiev. To catch a blah car to Prague to get back to Vienna. And as I'm leaving the warm and safety of my Katushka, And the blocks, the schools, the babushkas sweeping the streets. Final thoughts? At first I thought it was very Soviet and grim, but actually I really like it. It's a really lovely community around here that support each other. They've got local football matches with the kids, with the parents watch. The kids will hang around with each other here, walking the dogs, and the local shops as well. I think, I'm not saying socialist housing is all brilliant, but yeah, I've left it thinking positive of it actually. And let's get to the man in the car. So, I've just gotten on this bus to Brno in Czech Republic. So we're leaving about 2 p.m. and we should get to Brno for about 6 a.m., 7 a.m. So, yeah, goodbye Kiev, hello EU. Wish me luck on this very, very long journey. And this was essentially the vibe of the bus journey for the next 15 hours or so. A nice little note to end my Ukrainian experience on, I think. This is the last I'd be seeing of Ukraine, and as the sun went down, I said my goodbyes and thanks to such a wonderful